The opinions you hear on Your Mountain from individual hosts or guests do not necessarily represent those of Your Mountain, our sponsors, or other entities we're affiliated with professionally or otherwise. You've waited long enough. Go listen to the show.
There are millions of acres of opportunity out there. They belong to you. Every day, decisions are being made that affect your land. You should know about them. This is Your Mountain. Hey, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Your Mountain podcast. I'm your host, David Wilms, Nephi Cole. We're sitting in your hotel room.
We are.
And this is a fun part to say. President and CEO, Ryan Callaghan.
Backcountry
Hunters and Anglers.
The only organization that I belong to. It's the only one.
Actually, I told you this. I now belong to BHA.
I really
because
really
of your
appreciate
announcement.
You both.
Yeah,
really appreciate you both.
Yeah, and I've known you. What's funny is like this conversation here. So you were on the Your Mountain podcast, one of our first 10 episodes, I think, wasn't he? It was like really
you
early.
were with you might have been living in a van or something at the time.
Yeah.
It was early.
I don't know.
It was early.
It was early.
Back in the good times.
Yeah, you were in still
Sun
living
Valley.
in central Idaho.
Yes, and just like 3 months ago, and then I never thought about being a CEO.
Yeah.
But here you are.
Sorry for your mistakes. No, it's pretty funny because I was thinking about this as I was setting up our recording equipment. One of the things I remember is that you used to work for Warren Miller, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're doing so you're like I know that you really like to make sure that cords and stuff are straight and all that kind of stuff. And you were just shocked as we came in time number one and just threw like this box full of just ratty cords and we're like plugging stuff in and everything. And I think it was almost too much for you to take. So I want to know if you, as you look at our ratty cords over here, if we've improved or if it's just you see the same mess.
I'm amazed that we don't have any buzzing going on from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, well,
we got a lot of cords and we got multiple power sources and.
Yeah, well, that's it's a mystery to me that it even works.
I was actually kind of in fact we were setting this up and Nephi's like, do you have a power cord?
I did say that. It's like because I did a presentation today and I'm pretty sure I left my power cord in Wyoming, and so we could have some problems. So
my computer's gonna die.
Yeah, we're running it. We're good though now.
We've patched it all together.
We got it going. 1,000%.
We're all still running, including the Your Mountain podcast.
That's exactly right. We've 8 years running.
It's been a long time.
It's been you've aged exponentially. But
I'm still pretty immature though.
No, I didn't say you'd matured. I said you'd aged.
Yeah, well, it happens.
Yeah,
it happens to the best of us. They always say, don't let the old man catch up with you or whatever.
Yeah,
you can't stop it.
I mean,
it just gets you.
Even Cal, like button down shirt, collar
tucked in.
Yeah,
I know. I do it. My aging is really noticeable when my hat's off. If I don't stay on top of shaving my head, then I'm like, oh man, look at that dude.
It'd be interesting to know. Same mustache though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw some sort of April Fool's thing yesterday. Did you know that was coming?
Oh, I got a text that said, from marketing comms team, says, hey, don't shoot the comms team, but collaborate on this post. Not exactly my sense of style of doing things, but
go check it out because I have no idea.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No.
It's a AI generated or photoshopped mustacheless Callaghan.
Yeah, well,
it's pretty great.
We're having
new dress code at BHA.
It's a losing battle because now AI is integrated into everything. But we had a cool post that the team put together using all these different apps, Canva being one of them. To there are these tools that allow non-professional people to put things together that a graphic designer would typically do.
We're using one of those tools now to do this podcast. We're using a product. Like, we have no idea how the interwebs work.
Actually, I should probably mention. So we've switched to, you've done this forever, but we've become a late adopter, like we are with everything, to certain technologies like video technology.
Mm-hmm.
So we've started doing video recordings of our podcast. And
it's probably a big mistake.
No, it's good.
It's good if you do it right. The first one we published just fine. The second one was my job.
Yeah, I don't.
I haven't decided if I did it wrong or if Nephi did it wrong. But I think
you have. You just
there's no video.
He doesn't want to make me mad.
There's
he
no
hasn't
video.
decided he's president.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, when you do video, then you have to care about things like, I'm worried about Dave's blazer. Like, will his blazer hold up for the entire episode? Because this blazer, it's
she's well traveled.
Look, sometimes you got to look
like
professional.
It's like a fine wine,
or it's like a ball player who doesn't change his socks. He's feeling good about his
exactly right
hitting streak.
Look, the outside looks great. I mean, it hasn't been dry cleaned since I bought it, but otherwise it looks pretty good. The inside, I don't know if we can see it, but it's less good.
That's right.
But it's got like little pockets now that you can put chocolate bars and stuff, granola bars.
I mean,
This is dry cleaning comments for folks who have ever been in Washington, D.C., which Dave has to go to a lot in the summer.
It means something when you don't dry clean it.
It means something.
So many congressional offices, and you want the proof that it hasn't been dry cleaned in a while? I was just feeling around in my pocket.
This is going to be disturbing.
It's a mask.
Your
COVID era mask.
Wow.
We'll put it back in there for safekeeping.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But you had to wear that because you presented today.
I presented today. I presented yesterday.
My BHA crew is like, we don't want to use any AI in the office. We don't want to contribute to this unknown how much water it's going to use thing.
The energy stuff.
Yep. That's one of those things, that conversation I didn't know.
It's going to be a lot. So we're at the North American
right? Wildlife, and what is it? North American Wildlife Management Institute. Wildlife and Natural Resources Conference. Sorry, North American Wildlife and Natural Resources Conference. We just all call it the North American for short.
And it's interesting how many presentations. I don't know how many presentations you count where you don't talk about energy or AI or something like that as it potentially affects the world of wildlife and the world that we work in. I mean, there's been a huge focus of this conference is kind of, okay, how do we what's the good, the bad, and the ugly of having these things in our space? And it's been shocking just how immersive it's been and how quick it's gotten here.
Yeah, in fact, I was doing a session earlier today. I saw you in the audience. Thanks for coming, Nephi. Did not see you in the audience, but did one earlier today, this morning,
I did a
on
session.
The intersection of energy and wildlife management, conservation.
Yeah. I did a session yesterday on Fair Chase, and Ryan was there.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you at? You didn't make it. Yeah, you were in your room.
See, I did.
That's
one,
right.
Yeah, because I was preparing.
Right. It wasn't important enough for you to come listen to your co-host,
but
support the team.
Because I was preparing for the next presentation I had to do. That. Wait a second.
Maybe you should prepare the day before.
That's pretty much when I started. But I was doing this one on ballot initiatives, ballot box biology, and I didn't see either one of you in that one.
It's because we had other sessions to be.
No, and that's kind of the point. This is a huge conference that brings 650 professionals together from around the country, from state wildlife agencies, from federal agencies, from nonprofit organizations, from for-profit organizations, and it just brings everybody together to try and tackle some of these issues. And it's this is your first one, right?
Yes.
And so I'm really kind of interested, one, in sort of your take on it, but also how it meshes. I'd love to talk some about BHA and some of your vision for BHA and what you've seen here and how that plugs into some of your vision.
Yeah.
Because I find it to be this. I think this might be my 17th in a row.
Whoa.
And I find this to be one of the most impactful conferences for the wildlife community to actually network and get things done.
Awesome.
Like come up, chart a path to get things done.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of curious your take on it, and then talking some about your this new role.
So while you're thinking about that, I want to say how excited I am to see you in your new role. Just how cool it is for me. When BHA, I think all of us were wondering, when there's we knew that there was going to be a leadership change and who's going to fill those shoes. And I think I speak for a lot of people in saying, I know I speak for a lot of people in saying that when it was you, we're like, oh, that's the exact guy for the job. That's who they needed there. That's a guy who he speaks to what BHA is. He knows what it is from the beginning. It's not like you're bringing in somebody who doesn't understand the roots of the organization, understand the people that are part of the organization, how they think and what makes them tick. And I was like, no, Cal's the perfect guy. And, and for me, I've always felt like BHA, I've always believed in the potential of BHA. It's just as an organization, Dave knows this from when we I was like, this organization, it's got the right demographic. It's got the right viewpoint. It's got the runway. All it needs is a captain, a captain. And then the vision for where it's going to go. And so I can't tell you how, pleased that I know we both are, and many of our colleagues are like, oh, Callaghan, that's awesome. That's the right guy for the job. So welcome to the job and congratulations.
Gosh, I do way better when people are like, you'll never be able to pull this off.
Yeah. Well, there's that.
All right, you are going to suck at this.
Exactly. Give me some spite.
Now
that's what I need.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah. Okay. The conference so far is it's kind of like a sine wave, where I've been like, okay, yeah, right place to be. We're getting things done. And then there's the trough comes, and I'm like, I need to hustle and justify my membership dollars for being here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna grab somebody and make a good conversation happen here. So, asking enough folks around, that feeling exists too. Everybody agrees this is a good thing. We're also at a little bit of a different time where a lot of the federal participation that's normally here is not here. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's definitely much lower attendance from the federal partners. Although there are some. I've seen some from Fish and Wildlife Service, USDA. I mean, there are some around, but not as many as there have been in other years.
And so there's some things where I was like, I think this is not a productive conversation, and we're not doing anything here. And then there's other things that have happened where I was like, great, there's a decision, there's a way forward, and people just agreed to all push in that same direction. That's what we need. Great. Mm-hmm. And then, the big learning curve for me too, right? Because I've been on the very grassroots side of this and approaching everything from the end user perspective, which is something that I don't think should go away. And there's definitely folks around that need more end user perspective, because they are what I guess would just call a top-down approach, where they're like, okay, we're coming from a Senate or legislature perspective or an agency perspective. These are all the levers that you got to pull to get that thing that just came up from the grassroots actually done. And I don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that here. There's a lot of lever pullers here, and that's the interesting thing about this. So for people who don't know about this conference, so who's here? All the directors. So if there's a director of a Fish and Wildlife Agency, they're here. They're deputies.
State director and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Yep, and then you have and then from the agencies you'll get typically it's not always the head, but Brian Nesvik was here. From U.S. Fish and
Wildlife Service director. Also, some regional deputy directors were here. As well from the Fish and Wildlife Service.
And so you get these players here, and then typically you'll have like it's not always the president of an organization, but you'll have groups like, well, sometimes it is. So like you had leadership from Boone and Crockett and Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and so there's this group called the
American Wildlife Conservation Partnership
that is the kind of the top, the recognized top groups in the wildlife conservation space. They get together during this meeting as well, and talk about their priorities and what's going on federally, and then there's a huge amount of momentum in those organizations, and it's awesome to see BHA as part of those conversations as a fan,
and technically like a member, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
We're a member of AWCP.
You're a formal partner of
formal
AWCP
partner
is the way I would describe it. I don't think there's true memberships, but there's formal partners, recognized partner.
Okay.
Which is of now, I think, 49 or 48 of the national hunting organizations. Not angling, it's a hunting focused organization.
And I guess so folks know, and I didn't go through this process, right? But if you have an organization, it has to be voted into the partnership. So there's a
very
vetting
exclusive
process, and you pitch your case, and then the formal body votes on whether to accept the new entity.
So it is like NSSF. It is Rocky Mountain Elk. It's the National Wildlife Federation. It's Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. It's Ducks Unlimited.
TRCP. It's going to take the whole podcast to go through them all. There's a lot in there.
Right.
And so, but when all those people, and they agree on a lot more than people understand in terms of what's impactful on things like lands. Like when those organizations all agree and they get out a letter together, that letter that's a big flex when that letter hits Congress.
That's right. We actually heard that.
I was going to say that was like one of the early bright spots of being here is it's like there's director Brian Nesbitt, and he says it is a big deal when AWCP endorses something or supports, so I thought that was wonderful. That was great to hear.
So this conference aside, which like a lot of great stuff here, and I mean, I'd love to talk about some of the things that happened in this conference, selfishly, because I give this talk on ballot box biology, and I'd love to have a conversation about that at some point and see what you're thinking about that organizationally, and because there's a lot going on there. But you've been in this role now for 3 months.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I'm sure you're still getting the sea legs under you. I'm sure there's a big learning curve, but what's the vision?
Oh boy, I'll just say like that's one of the funny things that I was like, well, the first week I'll make sure that we have this meeting and we're all aligned on this vision, and then I'm like, well, next month I'll make that happen, right? And then it's like, oh my God, so much has happened in 3 months, and we haven't had like this formal sit down with the organization and everything and say, hey, here's where we are right now, here's where we're going, and here's how we're going to make it happen. So public land, public water, public wildlife, that's BHA's charge, right? Mm-hmm. And it is a broad mission. The intent of that mission was to keep it broad enough to where the organization could be more nimble than certainly at the time it was viewed that like species specific organizations, even though they had power and leverage, they weren't willing to like step out of that species specific lane to support or create or move along. I don't think that that's quite accurate. I think there's a lot of support going on behind the scenes with a lot of these species specific organizations for things that aren't directly elk or directly pheasant or directly quail, or pick your example. But by having a broader mission, the idea is that we could bring people in amongst these groups in possibly an easier way. From the right side of the aisle, left side of the aisle, the green to the hook and bullet, and form coalitions, get things done. And I think that's a wonderful mission. And if BHA is a connective tissue organization, that we're the fascia that's holding together all the muscles, that would be an absolute win. And sometimes you do just need facilitators. Nephi, that's a big part of what you do, is make sure people can effectively talk to each other and try to produce results, right?
Yeah, I think that BHA, like I think you hit it with like the potential, which is, I look at it as being, I just think it's huge. I think the potential of BHA is that, in my mind, it encompasses a lifestyle more than a species. And that lifestyle, there's a lot of us that share those, the aspects of that lifestyle, the things that we care about, the things that we like to do. And it's, you said it, it's water, it's wildlife, it's lands, and it's access to those places. And that's something, it doesn't matter what you like to hunt or what weapon you like to hunt it with, or, it's bigger than that. It's making sure that people have the opportunity to do those things regardless of what their niche might be. And I think that that's where BHA excels, because, and I think that's why you guys were really successful and continue to be with college age students and people like that, because you got people who are in a mode of discovery, who they're finding these things out. They're trying to discover what it is that they love about the great outdoors. And they're not guys that tend to are really set in their ways or tend to have a whole lot of stuff. I mean, they might have like a shotgun, a rifle, and a pair of boots. And that's how,
and a can-do attitude.
Yeah. And that's how we all started out. And the unique thing about the organization is the organization gives a place for those people to come in and find themselves. But also then, like you said, you can be one of, so many other things. That's one of the challenges, though, that you face, I know, is trying to make sure when people join the organization that they understand, like, hey, our tent has to stay big. We are not our issues, we are not laser focused on, this bat or laser focused on that thing. Our issues are broad. Our coalitions are broad. And that's challenging.
It is challenging, right? Because we all have our things that we like. We're going to put them ahead of this other thing. The magic happens, right, when we can take a diverse membership and educate and be like, this is why you should care about this thing. And it ties in, as all these things do in the conservation space, to the thing that you love the most.
Yeah. Well,
and so we're going to focus on this. We're going to
access forests, clean water.
Right. And access is that word, right? Because we have access to the physical places, but we're also need to be thinking about access to public wildlife, and that's where we can talk about ballot box biology, right? This organization, because it does seem so broad, we can have like a holistic view of the far, far future. And so, you guys heard me talk a lot about this grasslands project, Ted Cook's Lesser Prairie Chicken Land.
Tim a lot while we were here about that.
And I love it. I love it. And people are like, well, how the heck is giving private property owners who graze cattle, how the heck does that have anything to do with backcountry hunters and anglers? Giving them more dollars to graze cattle as long as they grow good grass too, which, by the way, benefits cattle. Right? And I'm like, well, let's not think right now, but let's think down the road here. everything that we care about, including full aquifers, depends on having open spaces. And as we see these big rangeland areas and our private property owners who graze cattle, as we see those places go out of business or sell out, the closer you are to a large population center, the more likely it is to be broken up, habitat fragmentation, range fragmentation, and developed in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And as a potential door knock and access seeker, that's not a good thing. As somebody who likes our pollinators, our clean air, our clean water, that's not a good thing. And drought tolerance, fire mitigation, that healthy buffer to prevent the encroachment or further encroachment of noxious weeds, that's not necessarily a good thing. And I see, again, like trying to look holistically, if I can spend an appropriate amount of time, BHA can move and motivate at the right times to get a program like that off the ground, which will enable grazers to stay on the property. It will provide the habitat for more than likely listed endangered species in our near future if we don't act, the lesser prairie chicken. Then that is ideally this awesome goodwill gesture that says, oh my gosh, these hunters really helped out here and really moved the needle. And by the way, they probably buy some beef throughout the year too, right? And again, it's kind of like that connective tissue thing, right? Like we all live in these big Venn diagrams where we really are dependent on the same things, and we really do appreciate the same things, but gosh, we get real particular of exactly how we want those things to be discussed and talked about. And that, in my mind, is where it all falls apart.
I gotta talk about Ted's thing for just one second.
Yes, please.
Because I talked to him for quite a while too, and I think just to elaborate on that a little bit, I think it's a really, really cool idea, right? You have this, and this is getting us sidetracked just a little bit, but you have lesser prairie chicken, which since 1998 have been listed multiple times, right? Every single time a petition has been filed to list lesser prairie chicken under the Endangered Species Act, the Fish and Wildlife Service has come back with a finding of warranted for listing, right? And then it's been litigated, and courts have overturned those listing decisions every time on various grounds, procedural grounds. Like, you didn't do this analysis correctly, didn't do that analysis correctly. The most recent one was the Fish and Wildlife Service voluntarily asking for voluntary remand, saying, we didn't look at our distinct population segment. We didn't do that analysis properly, so we want it back, and we're going to redo the analysis on whether it should be listed. But at the end of the day, for now, like 28 years, the answer has always been warranted. But you still have this pendulum swinging, and landowners are like anybody else. They want some certainty, they want some predictability, they want to do good things for wildlife, but they also want to be able to make a living, right? And they worry about what a listing decision might do to them. And if lesser prairie chickens are listed without some sort of mitigation or some sort of regulatory assurance for them, they could go out of business. And if they go out of business, several different things could happen. They could be family farmers or ranchers, and all of a sudden a big corporate entity comes in and buys it up, and that door knocking you talk about is gone. It could get subdivided. It could become all sorts of things. Or we could say, let's create a partnership with the landowner community and recognize them as stewards of the land. I've talked to a number of ranchers that have said this kind of line before. We grow cows, but we can grow prairie chickens. We can grow sage grouse. We
Yeah.
can grow.
I'll grow bears.
We can grow prairie dogs. We can grow
as growing
bears.
bears keeps me on my ranch.
As long as you keep me on my ranch.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so you have this cool idea to provide financial incentives to landowners to say, it's not even really, it's more like financial compensation for growing prairie chickens, which whether you hunt on that ranch or not, it's gonna benefit you. Those birds don't stay there. They're like, birds fly, they move. Yep. So it's like you have a chance to actually have, and not just lesser prairie chicken, but these grassland bird species are one of the fastest declining. Grasslands are the most at risk ecosystem, at least in North America, maybe on the planet. And you have an opportunity to work with landowners to conserve these grasslands and to conserve not just lesser prairie chickens, but all kinds of ground nesting birds. It's a really, to your point, I see why you're excited about it. It's a really cool project that he's working on.
And I want to have the flexibility with the organization and the membership to say, it's also just a really good thing. We may not ever get formal access to these places, but it is a really good model that's going to have downstream benefits, ecological benefits, water benefits for all of us. Why wouldn't we be supportive of that?
Yeah.
And isn't access not just access to land? I sometimes think access and opportunity are interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
Like part of access, if you're a hunter, is like the wildlife resource being there.
Yeah, it exists.
Right? And existing in plentiful amounts.
Yeah, I talked about this in one of the things I did today. Like I did a presentation of like access. We think of it as just maybe like crossing the fence, but there's access to the spot of ground. There's access to having animals on that spot of ground. There's access to the tag, right? There's access to the tools. There's access to the knowledge, and all those things, all those things are access. And so when we talk about what's limiting people in being able to enjoy a hunting and fishing lifestyle or maintaining it, it's always access. It's not always the land access, but it's always being able to access. It's that whole pie, right? You don't need just a slice of it. You need all those pieces in order to be able to enjoy it. And I think, I think BHA is broad enough that you can handle the pie. And I think that's a really cool thing about the organization is the ability to where you can talk about all those pieces of pie, how, and care about all of them. That said, access is, BHA has been at the front of, public lands and public hands type of stuff. And I think that's always going to be your bread and butter, which is,
Yeah, tell me you're not going anywhere on that.
No, my goodness. No, I mean, public land sell off. We've all talked about that a lot, but yeah, pro public lands organization, pro wilderness, pro big chunks of BLM. We are working hard on the roadless rule right now, which is definitely confusing for a lot of people to understand, what is happening with the roadless rule. Our position is we want to see forest management plans carried out. We want to see that good science implemented. And we want to see the roadless rule implemented the way it was supposed to be implemented. And we recognize that because it was put together by a bunch of humans, there's likely some things that could be updated and some flaws that could be fixed or improved upon. Let's have that conversation. And the frustrating part about the roadless rule in the communities that I operate in is we aren't getting the opportunity to have the let's make it better conversation.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the ways where, that's why I'd say the public, belong to an organization that wants to be involved. It's because if you're not at the table, it hurts you. And so being part of these organizations that come to meetings like this one, I mean, that's why you're part of the organization, because then, there are people here from those organizations, your membership is helping, it's paying for the plane ticket for the guy that goes and sits down with the director of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and is in his ear and, and is building the relationships to be effective in getting, as a member in getting your priorities implemented on the ground. And that's, that's why you're be a joiner. That's why it pays to be there.
And asking, right? So we hear all the time, and literally the reason that I'm in the seat is because the organization enabled me to do it. Is we get what we hear all the time. Well, what about the locals? What's the local point of view, right? And it's like, well, we have that in spades, and we're willing to facilitate those local voices interacting with their game agency and committee representatives, senators. Will get you up to Capitol Hill, and we want to see the end user represent themselves as much as possible.
Well, so you and I have also had this discussion, I think, and I think it's awesome for the organization though, as well, that we as much breadth and as varied as all your members are and the things that they love, you guys are also working on putting your kind of your policy objectives like in a spot so that people can see them and you can guide your local chapters and things like that, right? Like there's so much energy in the organization. It's like, okay, how do we channel it in the right direction? Has that been hard?
Well, I'm kind of laughing because we have like the most highly functional board that we've ever had in my experience.
Now that you're off of it?
Yes. Yeah, so I have a policy committee where I can literally say, this is what I'm thinking and this is what I need, and I can kick it to the policy committee. And literally this just happened month one where I told the staff, I'm like, hey, don't worry, I already sent that over to the board policy committee. And they all just kind of rolled their eyes like, so we'll see that in a year. I was like, oh no, this is happening. And sure enough, we got those policies back. So yeah, we are working on the solid foundation reference material where people can go, ooh, should I say this or should we engage on this? And let's look back. And
is this Nephi Cole's? Is this what Nephi Cole thinks, or is this what my organization thinks?
Yes. And if you take your BHA hat off and you're clear about that, you're free to do your passion projects. But with your BHA hat on, in a representation mode,
you're representing all of us.
Yes. So, and this is the direction that we're going. I laugh because our website's just kind of been a dumpster fire. And
I don't know. I haven't been there recently. As I nod my head, I'm like, it's got to stink.
I mean, I went there a while. Like I went there maybe.
I bought a shirt.
I went there 3 months ago to buy my membership after your announcement, so it was functional enough for me to buy a membership.
Good. Did you get anything back that says, hey, thank you for being a member?
I think about a month later I got a letter in the mail with a few stickers in it.
Okay.
That said thanks for being a member.
Okay.
So I did get that.
At
so
least
it worked.
some follow-up.
So that
That's
worked.
Good.
Yeah, that worked.
I was just laughing because there was a time where if you tried to get a membership and go, oh my gosh, public landowner t-shirt, that's cool, it would just like kick your membership out of the cart, and there's no way to add two things, and there's all these things. But we're another thing that we're working on.
Best t-shirts in the organizational space. Like nobody's got a better t-shirt than BHA.
We have room. Yeah, we're working.
I'm serious. Like
what you talked about, high emphasis and high vision for transparency across the organization. High emphasis and vision to continually, until you're sick of it, tell you, David, and you, Nephi, where your membership dollars are going and the why behind that, and provide those educational materials, right? That here's this nonpartisan breakdown of the issue. Page break. Here is BHA's position and why. Anybody can look at the information, feel confident that it is just the breakdown of the issue, and then here's BHA's position. You can click the button and weigh in, or you can be like, okay, that one's not for me.
And then hold you accountable.
Exactly.
Right.
As long as you're a member, you can hold me accountable.
I already told you I'm a member. I'm all about accountability. That's the other reason I joined.
That is the thing.
Mad.
That's my sales pitch this week. Is people are
that is
about
actually.
BHA. I'm like, well, become a member and you can hold me accountable.
That's actually the reason I was like, it's been at least a decade because I joined early when we were working with me.
We were at the governor's office
Yes.
when you were like Nephi was.
And it was an accountability issue too. It's like I was going to call and tell Land how mad I was about something. But I was like, I was going to tell this guy. And then I started reading. I was like, I kind of like this organization. I'm going to join. Then I'm going to call and yell at him.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And I haven't put this into words anywhere else, but I'm always tinkering on those internal communications. And we're going to kill everybody with communication has been really one of the big things the staff and I are working on. But I want to encourage everyone who's a member of any organization that we always talk about accountability with our elected representatives, but you need to talk about accountability and understand that you are in that position with any organization that you are a member of. Right? Like you can use your voice there too, and you should.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff that got talked about here. That reminds me of, there was Boone and Crockett is always really heavy at this conference. And we were in one of the things that we talked about in a session that I was in, we were talking about fair chase. And Boone and Crockett comes here. They do a lunch and a dinner, and I think they do 5 more lunches. And Dave, how many times did you go to lunch with Boone and Crockett?
It was only one lunch, one dinner.
So
I'm a professional member of the Boone and Crockett Club.
But it's cool to see those groups here active and working and everything. And this conversation on fair chase was pretty interesting. So there's been a lot of discussion about technology in the hunting space, and this group got together. And Ryan, of course, you were there. And when you were listening to that discussion on tech, kind of what was your thoughts about that discussion and where it was going? Did you have anything that stood out on people talking about, okay, technology and hunting and fair chase? Did you have any takeaways, any thoughts?
Or were you checking email?
No, I was really listening. Part of my brain was geared up to hear, like, everybody rally around. We need to obviously regulate the crap out of this thing and get it out of hunting. I was kind of prepared to hear that because I had talked to Nephi about this, but I had an experience with thermal optics in Mexico where I was like, oh my God, this is the thing that is going to ruin hunting forever.
Yeah.
And it's already on the landscape and it's out of the gate and it's getting smaller and cheaper. And
yeah, what do we do?
And everybody's going to have one, and it's just horrible, doom and gloom, And then the consensus, I think, right, is like, we know these things are on the landscape. Our conservation officers aren't ever going to be really effectively able to be like, oh, what's that sticking out of your pocket there, David? In certain circumstances, sure, but the regulation has to come from this stewardship ethos that everybody right now needs to be pushing. Like,
I agree
this
with
is
that.
our wildlife.
Yeah.
This is our land.
Yeah.
You are an owner in it. With that comes the responsibility of ownership, right? Stewardship. And then our game agencies, these poor people at our game agencies, they have their tools to really regulate this stuff, in addition to education, is by saying, this season, this is what opportunity looks like in this season. It's up to you if you participate or not. And then this season, this is what opportunity looks like there. And that's how they say we're going to regulate new technologies on the landscape. But I don't, one doesn't work without the other.
Yeah, I think, we talked a little bit about this on a previous podcast. We were talking about a challenge in Idaho. So Idaho had been working through, and we covered this twice.
Once wrong and the once right.
And once right and kind of wrong. And now hopefully we're going to be right again. But that technology rule that was being moved through by Idaho, actually, the changes that we had been saying, or at least privately saying that we thought that they probably need to make, actually got made in a bill that then got fast tracked through the legislature and is now headed to the governor's desk. And so what that bill did is the concerns that had come up with the HAT committee, the technology committee in Idaho, were the concerns were related to the fact that you couldn't use thermals for wolves. And so what did the bill do? And the rules didn't correct that.
Right.
The bill corrected it. So the bill came in and said, look, we recognize these technologies exist. And then it recognized what I think I keep saying is that people want to make controversy out of some of this new technology, all of it, frankly. But here's the thing. I actually think, and I said I was on this panel that we're talking about. I actually think we have consensus more than we have conflict on technology, if we look at it under the right lens. So what did I mean by that? Well, if we just say that, like, if you throw a thing out there and you say thermal is bad, which, like, well, that doesn't work, because people are going to say, what about this? And what about that? And what about this application? But if you say that we shouldn't be using thermal to hunt limited quota type animals, the ones that we consider fair chase in, the ones that we're measuring, that guys are trying to wait for tags for, we actually have broad consensus on that there's a level of fairness individually, right? There's when you're talking about fair chase with animals, in my mind, you're talking about a one-on-one, it's a 1v1 competition, you and the prey, the hunter and the hunted. And what we've come to consensus, I believe that we have consensus on this fairness, is that relationship, that's where you measure the fairness. And when you start to ruin that relationship, when you start to change that relationship to get an unfair advantage, like, well, that's where I think, got consensus, like, that's not the right approach. Well, let's put that into application. Something like thermal. Is there a role for thermal? Yeah. There's a role in depredation. There's a role in predator control. There's a role in feral swine and things like that. It's the right tool for the job. But when we take that into the umbrella of hunting, the consensus is that no, there's not a place for that. And, when you're hunting a giant, when you're hunting a bull elk, when you're hunting like that,
cows deer in Mexico, right? I'm like,
yeah.
The whole point of hunting cows deer, whatever you want to call them,
it's hard,
is they're really hard to see.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. The whole point of it.
So you throw thermals on, they're
not hard to see.
It's like not hard to see at
well,
all. Right?
And what you're doing there, right, is like, when you talk about this, now, is there a role for thermal? Absolutely. Let's say that you needed to cull 50 deer. Well, that's different. But in that situation, like, is it fair to have supernatural vision? Is it fair? Can I fly? No, I can't fly. So is it fair for me to now have a drone and be able to fly over mountains and find those things I couldn't find before? Is it fair? And this is a big one where I think AI actually did us a huge favor. In this thing we're talking about before, like, everybody's scared of AI. It did us a big favor when we're talking about fair chase and we're talking about the appropriate use of technology. Because before, if I had told you 10 years ago that you're going to have little robots, and I would say, like, R2-D2s, and we're going to throw R2-D2s out on the landscape and they're going to hunt for us, we'd have all thought that was ridiculous, right? Well, you don't think it's ridiculous anymore.
Taking the hunter out of the hunting.
Yes. Nobody thinks it's ridiculous anymore that you could have a camera on the landscape or a drone or something else where the technology is good enough. It's active enough, is a word I like to use, active versus passive, that it's making decisions, it's finding things for you, and it's doing the work of the hunter for them. And I think that that's where we have consensus within the hunting community, that there shouldn't be something on the ground that's doing the work for the hunter, finding the taking it, making it so that like literally you don't have to know, you don't have to have the technique to let the arrow go anymore. You don't have to have the technique. You don't have to understand, how the ballistics work. The computer does it for you. And I think that there's broad consensus that's not fair and that doesn't belong.
It's an endless conversation, right? If you don't have the social component, because it's again, so much of this stuff is not broadly enforceable. Like if you're thinking about a conservation officer on the landscape, so there has to be a social expectation to adhere to the regulations and an understanding of the only reason that we have wildlife in this country is because of an implementation of regulation and an establishing of a knowledge base to understand what's left out there on the landscape and now how much we have. And I mean, you are right. It's like this layering of technologies, but it's like, here is a iron sight, black powder flintlock, and a handheld thermal optic. You're like, well, boy, that thermal wasn't all that helpful. I still had to do a lot of sneaking.
Yeah, and I think that the trick is just realizing that there's, again, there's two buckets. There's this bucket of hunting under the fair chase principles, and there's lots of little buckets under that. There's where archery lives under that, where rifle hunting lives under that, and these are things under fair chase. Then there's another bucket that we have to acknowledge, and I think this is where Idaho ran into their challenges. Is like you have to recognize that there's a bucket that is not underneath that umbrella. That is predator hunting. That is things like that, where that is game recovery. And if you don't acknowledge that reality, that those tools are appropriate and good in that area, if you just say like, no, those tools should never exist, well then like that doesn't work with reality. And I think it actually makes it harder to get good rules and
game agencies, because Idaho, they're being told make things as simple as possible. They in this specific instance with wolves are a big game species in the state of Idaho. Mm-hmm. They're looking at what the Hunting and Technology Group, the HAT group, came up with. They're like, boy, the thing that doesn't fit in here is wolves. Nobody wants thermals allowed for big game, but wolf is a big game.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, because of our depredation laws, which are also written into the legislature, into law in Idaho, you can use thermals if you, I think you can call retroactively even on private land for livestock and within a reasonable zone around your livestock to do depredation activities with pretty much anything you can think of. So that exists, but the general public doesn't know that, or isn't. Yeah. They forgot about it from 5 legislative sessions ago.
Yeah, so the other thing I wanted to mention, because you talked about this, almost call it a social license in some respect, right?
It's a great way to think about it.
There's a huge responsibility. We have this social license effectively to be able to hunt, right? And the public supports that. And this kind of pivots into the other thing I wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. That is the thing that I was so interested at this conference, and I gave a talk on it. But if we abuse that social license and we use technologies like infrared, for example, for things that the public at large views, like don't even think about the hunting community anymore. The public at large looks at it and says, that's not ethical.
Yeah.
That's not responsible. That's not fair. But they won't call it fair chase. But they'll get to the point where they say, we're going to do something about it. And you're seeing that happen since the early 1990s. You're seeing this drip like a leaky faucet that's dripping faster and faster and faster as some states, not all, frankly, there are only about half of the states that can do this, start to use ballot initiatives, right? To run things to eat away at our ability to hunt. In particular, predators. When you look at the states that have used the ballot initiative process to impact wildlife management or to affect the means of take, 90% of them, I'm bad at math, so that's just me estimating, but a lot, like most, like almost all.
I didn't try and calculate it, but it's 90%.
But it's 90%, give or take.
Yeah, and you sprinkle in like a little bit of dog stuff in there.
Yeah, but the dog stuff is directed at
to the predators.
Right?
Yep.
It's bears or lions, right? Cats or lions, or sorry, cats or bears. Eroding the method, the means of take. I was given this whole talk on ballot initiatives because I got to make this point, and then we can talk about it at a bigger level on a future podcast or something. We can dive into it a little bit more here. But so we lose, right? On ballot initiative. We lose. We've lost opportunities in California. We've lost opportunities in Colorado. We've lost opportunities in Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And I know I'm forgetting several other states where opportunities have been taken away by the will of the public because we've been viewed as violating our social license, or we just haven't educated the right way, or we just haven't behaved in a way or done things in a way that the public likes. In some states, you don't have to worry about that. 24 states don't have ballot initiatives, right? You still have to worry about legislative processes and so forth. But the public coming in and doing like what they tried to do in Colorado last year, and
kind of are doing right now.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And then what's going on in Oregon with the petition drive to try and just ban everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to happen more and more and more, right? If we're not really careful. And I do have to make the one plea, and then I'll just stop my rant. I've seen, watching this now play out over many election cycles in many states. I've seen the hunting community win a couple, like one in Colorado, right? The one in Maine, I don't know, 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
when there was an attempt to
bear baiting
and so forth.
Yeah.
But they've lost in Colorado on bear baiting and spring bear seasons. They've lost in California on lions. And what happens is you win once. It's like that whole adage of you win the battle but lose the war. And I think as a community, we go on the ballot initiative stuff, we go about this wrong. We fight that one battle and we celebrate and say, we won. And these other groups are out there like, all right, whatever, we're going to do another initiative, and eventually we're going to win this thing. And so it's just,
and we do a good job of educating.
Yeah, but
our tactics.
Well, here's
and right. Then they go, adapt and hit them again.
Right, but what we don't do is we don't say, instead of doing these one-off fights, maybe we need to have a bigger strategy for how we address ballot initiatives.
I was sitting in a group today in one of the committee meetings. I don't know if you were in there or not. One of the educational sessions, we talked about we fight these things like piecemeal, right? We're fighting each one, and maybe what we need to be doing better is educating the public, not about why I should be able to hunt with dogs, but about hunting, about the hunter ethic, about who hunters are, about fair chase. And to me, this really is kind of coming full circle. This is why I believed in BHA, because I think that if we want to have people, to have a good view of hunting, and this is from the governor's office, we want people to have a positive view of our culture, of the whatever you want to call it. I call it an American culture, right? Is that we have to have advocates that they have to see it as being what they want to be a part of. They have to see it as being cool. They have to see it as, I kind of want to be a part of that. I like being part of that family. And at the time, it was interesting because you were like really at the ground floor of it. It's like there was this time where a former employer of yours who's very, I don't know if he still is or not, but like when you worked with Mr. Ranella, like there was that face that showed up suddenly. And that whole movement was looking for like that guy showed up, and I think it changed. I know it did over the last decade, hundreds of thousands of people's opinions on what a hunter was. And why is that? Because they could suddenly see somebody who was young, who was more like them, who was like, it was that whole ethos of like backcountry hunters and anglers. Like, I don't really have a whole lot, but I got this. And there are millions of people in this country who are like, oh, I'm like that guy. I could hang out with that guy. That guy, that's my roommate, or that's somebody that I could go hang out with him and I'd feel normal. And like, and to me, that's what BHA still has and has the potential to be. It is that home for so many people to find space that it's like where they're like, yeah, I'm an attorney, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a student, or whatever, but I'm also a member of BHA, and we all kind of think alike, and we all like, and these are the things that we have in common. We commonly share lands, water, wildlife, and we care about these things. And like, if you look at that and you're inclusive with that, and you make that, you build that tent right, that is the type of thing that you need to battle long term, not just the ballot box, not this initiative, but all of it, because that is what builds people into saying, like, a community that is more powerful than one issue. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle brand. I think it's been really unique to watch over the last decade that kind of seed get planted and it grow, and to see that success. And I'm hopeful that and it's bigger than an organization, it's bigger than one company, but hopefully for me, you hope to see that kind of take over kind of the way that people feel about hunters and hunting, that it's no longer, oh, it's this guy, who, it, on a Saturday morning who, I don't want to disparage too many people, but you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah, we can put that person in a bucket, right? And be like, we labeled that one cleanly. You got me thinking we should do, it should be lands, water, wildlife, and recipes. Because we share a lot of recipes at BHA.
Do you?
Yeah.
I just had I saw somebody's, this is how old I am now when I say I saw somebody's Facebook post yesterday. Yeah, that's how old I am. Yeah.
That's true.
Who's, I think, a mutual friend of ours, who was, speaking of recipes, he was showing x-rays of his new tooth.
Because he chewed on a steel shot.
Because he came to an event where I made goose sliders.
No.
Freaking broke his tooth. A mutual friend of ours in New Mexico.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Jesse Dubell.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
God, he's big enough to hurt people now.
I know. I was terrified. I was like,
fella,
I was like apologizing. I'm like, man, I'm really sorry. I thought I scraped all of it out.
Man,
you can paranoia, never know, but
paranoia. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I'll add that recipe to the book.
Thank you
for you. Yeah. It's a goose slider with number, or with BB, steel BB. Yeah, double B.
Okay, so I went to the Army War College over the summer for a week. They do like a civilian week at the Army War College, and one of our longtime BHA members was going to graduate from Army War College. He's a colonel, and so I got to go in there and sit in class with him, and it's all colonels or going to be colonels, or maybe just a little bit on the verge of taking the next step up, right? And they're Space Force, Army, Marine, Navy in there, plus some NSA folks, and it was really, really neat. And then we went to the commandant's, who's a 2-star general, to his house on campus, and he hosts this get together, and the Army band was playing, and the Army band was just unbelievable.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Unbelievable.
No, I've heard of, yeah,
right?
No, they're incredible. They're incredible.
And they started talking about their backgrounds and the multiple PhDs and all the things. And I was chatting with the commandant, and I was like, man, this is, obviously I'm not in the military. I'm like, I think one of the neatest things that I've come away with here is just like the crazy talent pool that you have. Like there's so many people here that you have these unbelievably talented individuals that are all under this one umbrella. And that's been the same feeling that I've had with backcountry hunters and anglers and knowing large parts of the membership for a long time, but now we're really getting involved in traveling and seeing more of the membership. We have 3 contestants on the show alone.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
I love that show.
One of which won.
I
alone.
love that show.
Yeah. One of which should have won but got sick. And then so I'm like,
I binge watch that show like crazy.
I know.
I'm like, I could totally do that. Like everybody, like, I could totally do that. I'm like, I could do that for like 4 days. Like I think it's the actual loneliness that gets people on that.
It is.
Like it's just some awesome people out there doing some incredible stuff, that living off the land, doing all that, and then they just get homesick.
Yeah,
they're like, I just miss my people.
Yeah,
and I mean, that wouldn't be what took me out.
No, not
it would
you.
be my inability. No, it would be my inability to survive that would take me out. No, anyway, go ahead.
But to me, like the BHA is chaotic, right? Membership organization, the chapters, and we've had a little bit of a leadership vacuum, right? And it's like, so things kind of got a little spread out and a little wonky, and just showing some consistency, like we're getting back together and we're pushing in the same direction. Every day I am blown away by the crazy talent in this pool of people and how different they are, and then how similar they are when they're in there talking about the issues that matter to them, but also the food aspect, the sharing from. I mean, we got folks that look like the biggest hillbillies on earth, and folks who are coming in to BHA later in life that have real deal CEO titles, and they're executives, and they're like, now I get to finally focus and learn more about this stuff that I skipped for my career. And you see those individuals talking about how to make homemade beer together, right? And then they're also going to team up for a stewardship project, or they're on the phone tree to call their representative or senator on a good issue, ideally, and sometimes not a good issue. But I mean, that to me is so amazing, and it's my job how to figure out how to promote that and harness it for the greater good.
Well, I can't wait to help however we can. The thing that has me most excited about you in this role is knowing how excited you are to be in this role.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm dead serious about that. Right. Because I know you've been really, really passionate about BHA for a really long time. Like it's been part of your identity for a really long time. And so to have you come into this role at this, I'd call it really important moment in time, not just for BHA, but for the conservation community as a whole nationally. It's an exciting thing. You want people that are in those leadership roles, like you being who you are, authentic, passionate, committed to the mission. That's what's going to pull people in and they're going to gravitate to you. I just think it's going to be. I'm just really excited to see what you do, and I'm here for it. That's why, like I said, that's why I joined, and I'm here to help in any way. Most ways, some ways. I mean, hang on. I know you're
maybe
drinking
a
from
little bit.
If I got time on a Thursday afternoon.
No, thank you. There's a lot of support. I'm not diminishing yours. For folks who are listening, these people have always been there for good advice, direction, perspective, context, and that's been phenomenal. And there is really good support right now. And I think just like our presence at this conference, right, is like mobilizing the good stuff here and getting it out into the world and making that difference. So taking whatever momentum we can generate every single day and turning it into positive action.
Well, hopefully we can come back in like a year after you've gotten your sea legs under you completely and you've started to, like, you're implementing. I mean, I'm not saying you're not implementing, but once that vision is being implemented and the troops are all out there doing the cool stuff, we'd love to talk again. Well, I don't know. I'm not.
No, let's make it happen. We
It'd
are
be cool
implementing a lot right now, but to your point, what we're implementing right now is kind of stuff that just got shoved at us and we got to tackle.
Right. But when we get into like
program going,
when you get a program going, when we get into the nuts and bolts, the things we like, we're like just super wonky nerds. That like to just dive deep into the weeds and really talk about the nuance of stuff. And when you get going on some of these policy things you want to do, some of the big visions for, like, we'd love to like deep dive on that stuff with you. That's the only reason we do this.
Awesome.
Because we're nerds like that. But I do have to ask one non-nerdy question, right? Unless you got any last thing.
Nope, I'm good.
All right. It's been like 8 years, and I'm sure you've listened to every episode since then.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate your continued.
We don't monetize this, so it didn't do us any good.
We always ask guests the same question. I don't know if you remember this. We probably asked you this like 8 years ago. I'd be interested to go back and see if it changes. This call this Your Mountain Podcast about your land, your water, your wildlife, kind of similar, sounds similar, right? Like BHA. But we want to know, like, for the people that are working in this space, what is your mountain? Like, actual place, metaphorical place. Like, what's the thing that motivates you? What's your mountain?
Well, the thing that got me out of the woods full time was this idea that wilderness areas shouldn't exist, and this idea that public land shouldn't exist either. And that's where I was like, oh my gosh, I know that's not true. I guide all these people from all over the place who had no idea what public land was until they got here, and now they're raving idiots about it. They love it. And they had transformational experiences, and I've got to be the benefit of that my entire life. And I guess my metaphorical mountain is getting to the point where I can be like, oh my God, everybody values these places, to the point where every decision that's made at every point of government is going, how do we continue on as like the greatest nation in the world while continuing to steward these resources, not for this administration or the next administration, but in perpetuity, for the health, benefit, wellness of everyone. Once we knock that out of the park, I'll just go back into the woods.
I mean, you're
like
18 months tops.
I like it. Give me that.
No, I appreciate that. That's awesome. You're 18 months top, maybe 2 years. You might actually give it a full 2 years.
I like that timeline.
But
that's great.
But then you'll get back into the mountains. Thanks. I really thank you for being here, coming to the conference, for taking on the challenge and the responsibility of being the CEO of BHA. Thank you for that. Thank you for everything you've done up to this point. Thanks for coming to this conference. Thanks for hanging out. And we look forward to doing this again. And I don't know if you have any last thought before we full wrap.
I thank you. Just thank you for the opportunity, right? I've been a guide all my life, right? And this is like an extension of that. Like I'm ideally gonna, take on this role, guide our membership into the best possible opportunities, and let them kick
success.
butt, right?
Yeah.
So
Amazing. I'm going to guide our listeners to our YouTube page.
Do that because apparently it gets really good traffic, even though you don't put the freaking video on there.
Well, I don't know that it gets good traffic. We'd never used YouTube before, so when you start from zero, anything is good traffic.
The mountain looks great. You know, the demographic.
It's an exponential growth curve to 20. No, for those of you who've been listening, just know we're working out the kinks, but you can find us on video too now on YouTube. We're one of the last adopters. We're the old fuddies that just take forever to get on board with the new technology, but we are on board, and that's our commitment to being here in the longer term. Is that we're actually
speaking of being on board. How do you join BHA?
Yeah, there you
go to www.backcountryhunters.org. Would be a very easy way to do it. We're across those social platforms. Why would you join a membership organization, guys?
Great hat.
Oh, I don't know. It's never worked out for me. No,
I'm waiting to see it.
We actually say this a lot. Why would you join a membership organization? We say that we talk about this kind of stuff all the time and encourage people to join membership organizations because everybody has to lead their own life. They got lots of things going on in their life, right? Kids, soccer practices, maybe a hunting trip here or there, right? There's a ton of stuff going on and you can't be everywhere all the time. And you need people that can work on your behalf of the things that you care about. And the beauty about a membership-based organization is the more members you have is in that membership organization, the more powerful your voice becomes. And you have the people on the back end, like you and your team that can then take those messages and go, fight on behalf of everybody. So they can still go out there and do all those awesome things that they're doing on public lands or private lands, or, just earning a paycheck in their in their office, whatever they're doing. But it's like, that's always my message for why you join a membership organization, because they're able to do the things for you that you don't have the time to do.
And you get to stay informed.
Mm-hmm.
You get to be a part of a fantastic community. We do a backcountry week for employees. So in addition to your 2 weeks of time off, you get a little burned out in the conservation gig. You have a dedicated backcountry week as an employee. So and nothing's free.
He's trying to hire you right now.
I'm like, should I get my resume here?
Go out to your backcountry adventure, and then you have to come back with an essay of your reflections and the why you chose your spot. And obviously we're a hunting and fishing organization, so you don't say exactly where you were going. And then, you rebuild that fire, that flame, you fill your bucket, whatever analogy you want, to go out and better fight the fight on behalf of these places. And within this organization, it's awesome because the people can be like, I want to go to the Boundary Waters. And we got a bunch of people on the ground up there, and they kind of lay it all out for them. And it's a heck of a network. So that's another reason to be a part of a membership organization. You get access to this like-minded network that, so long as you are a nice person, they will help you figure out your next adventure or figure out that next recipe.
So I guess the answer is there are a lot of reasons. There's a reason for everybody to join a membership organization.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate having you up here and catching up with you, and look forward to the next time.
Thank you guys so much.
And to everybody listening, remember that life is about experiences. So go have one.